somehow things worked out.
Yeah, not even back in Canada 24 hours, but here we are.
Yeah.
But so I'm nice and rested and reinvigorated after the last week out in Mexico.
Just before we get started, just an interesting sports year in 2022. This was the first year, and I'm using finger quotations, so those that are going to be watching us on YouTube will understand this, but the first year back to being normal, I would say this year, having full crowds, getting that atmosphere.
Yeah, it was. I mean, like we kind of pretended that the pandemic was over for some of the other sports, and then we didn't pretend that it was over from some of the other ones. But no, that this was the first like full like start to finish where it was like, yes, we are back. So it does have kind of a bit of a normal feel to it, and it's interesting to even go back and think where we were as a sports world, but just as the world in general back to January. It's crazy how progressed would be a lovely way of looking at it. Maybe just forgot or quit giving a shit would be another way of looking at it.
Well, yeah, as wrestling fans, Peter, you look at this Tokyo Dome show coming up on January 4th, right? And it's the cheering sections, right, that are being laid out for this Tokyo Dome. And some fans are allowed to do some stuff, and they're not, as Japan has obviously been the most cautious out of anything as far as letting COVID in. And that kind of brings us all the way back to the Olympics, which going into this year in review, I think this is the least impactful Olympic year ever. Like, it didn't seem like this. I don't know, for whatever reason, maybe it's because these athletes didn't get to train enough, but just zero impact that these Olympic Games really made. All respect to the athletes and everything they did, but it didn't seem like there was as much of an impact as we normally get from the Winter Games.
Well, I think it's a couple of reasons. One, the Japan Olympics ended like 45 minutes before these ones started. Like we had a bit of a weird thing going on there. So I think we were kind of Olympic out. And also, I do think that we like it probably wasn't as big of the coverage as some people would have wanted with the World Cup in Qatar. But I do think that there is a bit of a, hey, no, fuck this place when it comes to things like China and Qatar with the World Cup and stuff like that. So I do think that kind of that kind of bled into like, no, you know what? I'm not going to pay attention to it because I don't want to like go along with things that are in China or Qatar right now.
Yeah, I know, Dev, you were like that for the soccer side of things this year.
Absolutely. You got to put your money where your mouth is.
Yeah. So we'll get started here. We had Scott Roblin for the longest time on here, and now he has moved on to CTV, and we have an embargo. Yes or no? I'm not going to confirm or deny that. So he won't be joining us. We were lucky to have Michaela last year. So very happy to have Peter on here. So Peter, how this works is we kind of go among these awards. Some we may have a little bit of a conversation with, others we're just going to kind of breeze through, and I will let you have the honors to start us off. So we will be starting off with Best Breakthrough Athlete. Last year, Dev, you had Max from F1, and I think that
Max Verstappen.
Max Verstappen. And I had Micah Parsons last year. I think both of those definitely were breakout level stars this year. Peter, as the newbie to this annual tradition, we're doing this for the 5th year this year. Where are you going for Best Breakthrough Athlete for 2022?
Yeah, I'm going to go a bit of a hipstery sports pick right off the bat. It's going to be much more the traditional North American stuff for the rest of it. But I'm going to go Erling Haaland for Man City. I think it's 17 goals in 14 matches for them so far this year. He has just taken the Premier League by storm. And for one of the top clubs over in England, there's obviously been some here stateside as well, but I just look at impact on top teams, and he is just like completely dominated so far, overshadowed by some World Cup, but I think Haaland out in Man City is the way I'm going to go.
Yeah, and Man City's definitely taken another, believe they won the cup this year, had a great year at Man City, and he's a big reason why. So solid pick there. Dev, where are you going?
Cale Makar.
That's a good one.
Don't tell our broadcaster from the Dogs about this.
I mean, he might show up on this list a few times, but we talked about some of these big sporting events not working out or lacking a lot of pizzazz, and I think the Stanley Cup playoffs this past season definitely had a lot of pizzazz for the first time in a long time, especially without a Sidney Crosby type player. So great to have kind of a future star to build on. I've already started seeing him in various commercials. He's probably on 3 or 4 different betting commercials already. So he's got to be a future star. He's already on one of those.
Yeah, that is some solid ones. There's a lot of people that have broke out this year. We've had one of the most solid NBA rookie classes I think I ever can remember. And I think there's guys in there that I want to pick as breakthrough, but they may just be next to guys like Paulo, Ben Mathurin, for example. I mean, Lord knows the Pacers and all the Canadians on that team have definitely made a breakout this year. But I'm going to the NFL. I'm going to go to Sauce Gardner, who completely turned around a Jets defense. I don't think it's even a question that he's going to win the NFL Rookie of the Year. And he is getting to Revis Island levels as a cornerback. You look at that Jets team, and as we're recording this now, maybe not looking like a playoff team, but this is a guy that, and I think it kind of fits the mold that you guys were talking about with Holland and McCarr. This is a guy that come next year, he's going to be in all the commercials. This guy, how he hasn't done anything with Hot Ones yet, I am shocked by, but he will be in the Frank's commercials, Heinz, whatever you name it. Sauce Gardner will be up on that level.
Well, yeah, you look at like the New York media, like just giant behind him. Like we've turned Eli Manning into a television superstar. So I think that New York behind Sauce is going to be quite the thing.
Next up, we have future star. And to me, I think going into the drafts next year, there's 2 choices you can really make in this. And one is from the NBA and one is from the NHL. And you can't go wrong with either one of them. I'm going to go to the NBA side with Victor Wembanyama, who, as we're recording this again, Peter, your Raptors is like, maybe go into the bar and give him a drink and just be like, hey, you may want to hang out a little bit and just, we just want to talk. Nothing serious. We just want to talk right now. But that's where the Raptors are as we're recording this right now. This kid is absolutely ridiculous. I have not seen a player have been showcased off the way that he has probably since LeBron. This guy was literally on the NBA League Pass as he was going against Scoot, the 2nd overall projected pick right now. But it's just like Zion mixed with Durant, mixed with Giannis, mixed with Jokic. I think it's the alien nickname is apropos for this kid, because I have never seen anything like this. It's unbelievable. You obviously worry about, the legs and everything like that, like we saw with Chet Holmgren in the Summer League this year. But this is as sure a bet you're going to have. And I know every, 5 years in the NBA, we seem like, we're going to have the next LeBron, because we had the Durant class, then we had Anthony Davis, and then Zion, and this is the next level. But I think he is at that level. When you talk about a guy that's going to completely change the page of the NBA, you look at some of the franchises you could go to. If he goes to Detroit and you have Jaden Ivey and Cade Cunningham, game changer. If he falls to the Raptors and has like Nick Nurse there, if Orlando with Paulo and Wagner there, I could go to the Spurs if he gets even a year with Popovich, complete game changer. Just this guy is going to be the NBA in a handful of maybe even a year. So I'm going to go Victor Wembanyama.
Great choice.
Dev?
I guess I'll go with a bit of a theme here. I'm going to pick Jason Robertson from the Dallas Stars.
Oh, nice.
Okay.
Just kind of burst onto the scene, specifically this year with his points, right? With his goal scoring. He's brought a lot of attention, being that he's, a Filipino descent. We know how they love their sports. And it's just nice having classic, solid hockey players to watch on TV.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
And I think the WHL is going to provide another one of those. I'm going to go with Connor Bedard. Like he's unbelievable. The stuff that he's doing in the WHL, the first Western League player to get the exceptional player status. wherever he ends up, like you already have teams kind of tanking for him. He is the Victor Wembanyama of the NHL right now. Like he is going to be the next one. He doesn't look like a created player from like NBA Live 2004, where like Wembanyama looks like he would be able to guard Shaq one day and Iverson the next. But for Connor Bedard, like he is the next one. I do want to give an honorable mention to Sarah Fillier, kind of lost in the Winter Olympics early on, but she was 23 years old and had over a point per game for Canada. She just kind of felt like the next one, but Connor Bedard is my pick here.
So last year, Devan went with Connor Bedard. Michaela, who kind of makes sense now. I think this was an inside job, who works for the Stampeders. She picked the Philpots. I picked Paulo Bancaro last year. Best comeback. So this is normally in roots of I guess you can go either way in this. Where do we normally go with this, Dev? We normally go with player, right?
It's like they're trying to define a most valuable player.
It's like Apex Mountain on Bill Simmons rewatchables.
Whatever you want to choose. Like what are we gonna do? Like delete your vote, strike it from the record.
Yeah, I normally go. I think this is more of an athlete. So best comeback athlete, Dev.
Well, we just had a really cool event happen the last couple days, and a lot of people saying that this person was done. They should just go over to America. I'll stretch the definitions of comeback a little bit, but it's Lionel Messi.
Okay.
No, that's a good one. Like definitely coming back to, I don't want to even say relevance because he's 400 billion people know who he is, but
when he lost the Saudi Arabia team, right? He was done. It was over.
Yeah, coming back to that like grand thing, like to go from maybe you should go play into MLS to being the undisputed GOAT in the span of a few weeks is a pretty impressive comeback.
Well, just the way that PSG works in La Liga and them as a Champions League squad, and you know him leaving Barcelona where his best days behind him, and where's his next move? Or it's like, just hold my beer. I'm still the best player in the world.
Yeah.
It's a very good one. Peter?
Mine didn't have quite the ending of winning the World Cup and establishing yourself as the greatest of all time. But I'm going to say Tiger Woods at the Masters. 14 months after a car crash where it looked like he wasn't going to be able to walk again, like to a Tuesday where it didn't look like he was going to be able to walk again. And then he goes out there and golfs. He is never going to be Tiger Woods in capital letters ever again. But to get back out there and to be able to play competitively, we all saw what that car looked like after he crashed it. It's a pretty impressive comeback for him. So I'm going to go with Tiger.
Yeah, that's a good one. And then even watching him with his son this week was really cool. Mine's kind of close to Dev's in a way. This guy was counted out, and then he came back and won a championship, and that is Steph Curry. Everyone was saying that I remember there was conversations I was having with people that year that the Warriors didn't make the bubble, and Dame was going off and saying, well, Dame's the best shooter. Dame's the most clutch. Steph is done. The Warriors will never win a championship again. They're done. It's kind of a sense of Warriors/Steph, and just the way that they came back. And even when the playoffs started, they were not favored to have a chance. You had the Suns in there. People really liked Memphis being a sneaky team in there. And then Steph just came along and shot the lights out, won a finals MVP. And now we're having conversations if he's a top 10 player of all time.
Yeah, that's a great call. Like for someone who, like you said, it kind of seemed like, the Warriors, it's done. And then for them to come back and for him to be so dominant, he's going to come up again later, I'm assuming, for him to be as good as he was. That's a pretty impressive one as well. Yeah.
So best transaction this year, we had the worst transaction. The biggest transaction this year, there was a lot. I think the NBA, it's probably the first year that it didn't really have one. The NBA always seems to have those splashy ones. So I really look at the NHL or baseball, we're having some right now. I think if Aaron Judge had maybe have gone to the Giants, I would have maybe had led to this, but he got boring and just went back to the Yankees. There was a few baseball ones that even just happened recently I was considering, but to me, the biggest and the best one right now is probably Devontae Adams going to the Raiders. And just, you get the best receiver in football. You give away a number one pick give away number one picks because they don't stay in the team anyways. You might as well do that. And maybe, the team's record isn't as best as it can be. And that's a discussion for Peter and I another day of where the thing is, but it hasn't hurt his growth. He has better numbers than he did with the Packers last year, and is showing that he's either the first or second best receiver in the entire league, maybe up with Justin Jefferson there. But for the Packers to give a guy like that away to a Raider organization that will have quarterback conversations this offseason, he will be the most interesting piece for you to get an attractive quarterback at any range that you want to go with. So that's where I'm going to go for the biggest one, is Davante Adams to the Raiders.
Biggest, best, worst, or is it just biggest?
It's biggest / best.
Oh. Ooh,
I was tied between two.
Give me some inspiration. I want to hear what you have to say.
I'm going to go. It didn't necessarily work out the way they would have wanted it to this year, but I'm going to say Juan Soto to the Padres. When you get a player compared to Ted Williams, and then that player gets traded, that just seems massive. And so while it didn't get the Padres to the promised land, it's inspired them to sign Xander Bogaerts for the rest of his earthly life. And they are going to be, I think, an interesting team next year, and to lock that kind of a player in for a long time, and make that kind of acquisition is, I think, like, it's just not something that happens all the time.
That's a really good pick. That was a really big one.
Yeah, I'm stealing that. I'm stealing that one.
The honorable mention I had was the Flames doubleheader of, the triple head, of getting Huberdeau, Uyghur, and Nazem Kadri. And if I would have done this pod 5 games in the NHL season, you would have agreed to that. But we're not 5 games in the NHL season, and Peter doing everything he does, talking about the Flames. Now that trade, well, it changed the fortunes of the Flames, and as far as having the worst off season, it hasn't worked out the way it has, and you can listen to Peter break that down all the way. But that was one I had debated, because that changed an NHL's team's off season completely around.
Yeah, it might have made it for me, except of the teams that were involved in that, so the Flames, the Panthers, and the Blue Jackets, as we record here today, a grand total of none of them are in a playoff spot right now. So it just kind of sucked for everyone a little bit.
Yeah, the Juan Soto one is really, really good. Like I said, I think the Rodon one, I wanted to see how that plays out, because that was one I was tempted to pick just to solidify our Yankees rotation. That was a really big pickup, and the Xavier Bogaerts one could be one. Is you're talking about a Padres team, to kind of mount on what you guys are saying, that has Juan Soto, Xavier Bogaerts, and people are forgetting. Like, whenever I see people talk about the story, they're not talking about the fact they have Fernando Tatis as well, because I know he was gone with the suspension and everything like that. So that was rather big, and I think even the way the pitching has been going around the National League right now throughout the Dodgers and the Mets, and Dodgers getting Syndergaard the other day, and then the Mets getting Verlander. Baseball definitely has no shortage of high news for big teams, except for our Blue Jays, Peter.
They got Bassett. It wasn't the big land, but I mean, it solidified the pitching staff. But no, this has been the best baseball offseason in years.
Yeah, it has.
Well, hey, I want to jump in for a second. If this is proven to be true, Cristiano Ronaldo going to the Saudi Arabia club for like $250 million a year. If that happens in the next 11 days or 12 days, that's my answer.
Okay.
That's a good one.
Best coach, Peter.
I'm going to go Dusty Baker. I don't know if he did the best job coaching this year, but it was the best story for a coach this year, I thought. Getting that Houston Astros team, who everyone hated, to somehow make even a morsel of them be somewhat likable was impressive enough. But to be able to get that team to the promised land, obviously a ton of talent, but they've also lost a ton of talent over the last little while. And for him to finally get his due, I've never been the biggest fan of his, but I think that it kind of got to the point where he was so overrated, he became underrated. And everyone's like, oh, he's overrated. He's overrated. And we kind of forgot, he's pretty good. So I don't know if, like, we were to go the grand total of every coach this year, did he do the best job? I don't know, but he won the World Series. He finally got over that hump. I think he deserves a bit of recognition for the job he did.
Yeah, I was debating him. I wanted to go with Sean McVay, but unfortunately for him, a Super Bowl is great, but then the rest of the season happened. And so that unfortunately took away. Steve Kerr, has such a great legacy and he won so much, but I kind of went down the same road you did, Peter. I went with Dusty as well, and for a lot of the reasons you said too. I mean, number one, just to have them to win the World Series and to be like, well, I'm happy for Dusty is I think pretty valuable.
Yeah.
My choice is Eric Ten Hag from Manchester United. He was the first guy to have the cojones in order to bench Ronaldo. It led to an amicable split with him leaving the club. So it's someone who's standing up to a giant in the industry. That's pretty big.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's pretty big.
That's a great call.
By the way, going back to last year for best transaction, Michaela and I, with the biggest oopsie daisy of all time, we said the Bulls off season.
Ooh.
Did not age good. That aged like milk. That did not age good. And then best coach last year, Dev, you went with Daryl Sutter. That did not age terrific at this point. And I went with Monty Williams last year, which you got to love the job that he actually did do. Okay, now we're going to get a little bit fun for a little bit here. We're going to go with best mascots. Devan.
What? Why are you throwing this? I guess it'd be Gritty, wouldn't it? Like, not only is he like basically iconic within a few years, but I mean, there's
an Abbott Elementary this year.
It might be right. Like the thing's ubiquitous now to like other than Harvey the Hound. Like what's another hockey mascot? Like, yeah, there's a few in basketball that
Wild
we could talk about.
The Shark.
Is this? But do you actually know of like the Shark mascot though? Like what he looks like? Like we know, of course,
Sharky. He's Sharky.
It's Sharky. That's terrible.
Yes. The thing I know him the most for is he was rappelling from the ceiling one time and it got stuck. So there's just a video of the shark hanging up in the thing, just like, get me down from here.
And that's like Wild Wing with the fire, right, Peter?
Yeah.
Actually,
it was Wild Wing.
I do have a vote. I do have a vote. It's the BYU Cougars mascot who's doing the push-ups onto back tables. Just give him the crown for the last month of the season. BYU football, crazy.
I wanted to kind of do mascot / halftime because I wanted to find something to give Red Panda because she's the best. She makes any league. Anytime you get League Pass and you get Red Panda on, you're happy. But I wanted to get the mascot shine. I'm going to go local. And I'm going to go with Harvey because he got voted the worst mascot by some idiot association when he's the original mascot. It's specifically in the NHL. And I think in professional sports, Harvey is. So I'm just going to go very simple here and just give it to good old Harvey. But the BYU one, good point there, Dev.
I have to agree with the survey. I think Harvey is a dreadful mascot. I know I do a lot of stuff like covering the Flames.
Yeah.
When that thing got covered in mud in the flood in 2013, it should have stayed there. Like that, it's just it has nothing to do with the team whatsoever. It's 1,000 years old. Like it just it needs a new coat of paint. I think at the very.
I may or may not be doing this because Harvey may or may not be my cousin.
Oh, okay. Well, apologies. I'm sure your cousin's lovely and would do a wonderful job.
I mean, I've always wondered too. Who had the fox? I think it was the Hitman had a fox for a while.
I think they still do.
Why do they have a fox? I'm like, just get someone to dress like Bret Hart. It's the easiest thing to do.
Okay, while we're sticking local, because I did not have an answer written down for this, I'm going to go with the honey badger that the Roughnecks have. Because
there's a good one.
Honey badgers are fucking phenomenal, and I think that they should be represented more in sports. So go honey badger.
There you go. The best jersey, Peter. I'll let you take this one on.
To me, this was a no-brainer. I didn't know if we were going like just best jerseys overall or best new one for 2022.
Best new one.
But it didn't matter because the answer is the same for both. It is the White Sox city uniforms, the black ones with the white pinstripes and just what they wore. Like it just, I mean, it looked stupid as fuck when Tony La Russa was wearing them. But aside from that, what the White Sox were rocking, those are second to none among all jerseys ever. They are so good.
Yeah, those ones are very good.
It's those city connect jerseys have really the best thing that Nike could do is make a jersey that everyone talks about, and the second best thing they could do is make a jersey that everyone wants to wear, and they did both with that jersey.
Mm-hmm.
Even when we look back at the Washington Nationals the cherry blossoms, how it's rolled over into the WNBA team, the NBA team. Like I love the idea of continuity in cities. That's not my answer, but the City Connect jerseys, even if we look back at the Red Sox one, the yellow and blue, like just whether or not you hate them or not, it's just fun to talk about.
Yeah. Well, Dev, you stole mine. Mine is the Cherry Blossom Wizards one. They need to make those the jerseys. They should not work, but it's the originality of not really having pink. And I've watched more Wizards basketball than I want because they're on the East Coast, and sometimes it's a game you have to watch when you're watching League Pass. Those jerseys are phenomenal. So Kuzma pulls it off better than anybody somehow. Kuzma just pulls off that pink jersey so fantastic. And going down to have the shorts and having the cherry blossoms around the shorts, even as someone that's a Laker fan, I would love to just have those shorts. They're so perfect. And the originality, right? Because we have so many teams have such the same color scheme, right? All of a sudden now everyone's having baby blue. All of a sudden, like every team has to have a baby blue jersey, or every team has to have this type of jersey. It's so nice to have a unique level jersey that the Wizards have with the pink. And there's not a lot of other good things going on for the Wiz this year. So to see that cherry blossom jersey is so nice. And I really think and hope, and they did a good job too, bringing back their, the old Jordan Gilbert Arenas era Wizards jerseys. I love those. I wanted to go with the Motor City Pistons because I like that one as well, but I'm going with Cherry Blossom Wizards. They're good, but Peter's, yours is good as well with the White Sox. Dev?
Well, there's one answer. It's the Japanese football team first jerseys, the samurai blue. Like, come on.
Oh, those are good. Oh, you're talking about the look. Yeah.
Yeah, the World Cup jerseys. Like, to the point where I had told Josh if they had won, in the off chance that they actually did win, I would have bought one the next day.
Yeah. Yeah, those were slick. I liked those a lot. That's a good call.
Those are very good. We go to best sound bites of 2022. Dev?
You're asking a guy who's Googling these things as we talk about them to figure that out. You gotta just put me at the end, buddy.
I think to me, it's the one that I got to talk to Peter about when we were doing the show live. Jacob Markstrom. I suck at hockey right now.
That's a good one.
It's going to be replayed over and over. I didn't mind the one with Kate Upton and Justin Verlander at the World Series, kind of saying that she's the boss of where his career goes, taking shade at some other players. But Jacob Markstrom being so self-resident on himself and just saying, I suck at hockey right now, and getting to read that live as we have people coming in on the live feed and asking what's going on with the Flames right now, and just Markstrom coming in and saying, I suck at hockey. I think that's when it's going to start. And you've seen it through, the Flames have had this past 5 games, and Markstrom has been better. And people, you still see people quoted, and it's been 3 weeks now. And like, he didn't suck tonight. Maybe he should focus on this instead of sucking at hockey. Even when he put an engagement photo up, people use that quote against him. So that quote seemed to have stayed. So I'll go with that one.
That's a really good one. I went more the broadcast way. I guess that's how I am.
Yeah.
But when the Phillies took the lead back from the Padres in the NLCS on Bryce Harper's 2-run home run.
That's a good one.
I think Joe Davis is his name. It's his first. Yeah. It's his first year being the guy for Fox Baseball, and the call was it's a 2-run home run to give him the league, and it was Harper, the swing of his life. And it was just like, there's no way you can prepare. Like, hey, if he hits a 2-run home run in the 8th inning to go ahead, this is what I'm going to say. Like, it was just like, it was such an in the moment thing. It was just like so perfect. And it's one of those like timeless ones that'll live on forever. So that's what I went with.
That's a good one. That's a really good. And to the point, and Simmons and Russillo and a few other shows, they called out that call specifically. So, you have a special call when that happens.
Yeah.
Dev? You ready to go now?
I suck at hockey's pretty up there. I mean, there's a lot of ways that we can interpret that message, but it does really stand out. So I'll go with the easy way out.
Devan, gonna put you on the spot. Best broadcaster. Might have 2 eligible right now.
Right. Well, Dick Vitale coming back's pretty big deal. But best sportscaster. God, I don't know. Like you're asking like I watch sports all day, like you guys do. You gotta skip me again. I'm sorry.
Man, you were this close to picking Peter, and I felt it.
The problem is I would have had to choose one of you, and I don't want to do that.
Okay. I'm just I had it written down here, but I'm going with the Hornets play-by-play. This guy is the best. He brings him or Stacey King, the Bulls color guy. They're both just add such this added atmosphere when you're calling games. It's so great. And the problem is with a lot of these NBA League Pass teams, you're getting a lot of biased guys. Like Atlanta's is really bad. All respect, I know we're in Canada. The Raptors can be really bad at times as well. Although mainly Jack can be a little bit rough at times. But yeah, I'm going to go with the Charlotte's play-by-play broadcast. I'm just Eric Collins, who is really just fantastic. And whenever you listen back to the NBA top 10 on YouTube, even if you don't have League Pass, you're going to find Eric Collins on there. I didn't want to go with the mainstream one this year. I wanted to kind of find a local guy because those guys do such a good job. So I'll go with Eric Collins.
I'm going to go with Pat McAfee, who I think just continues to take the world by storm, whether it's his podcast that got like a $300 million deal. With wrestling, he had Brock Lesnar on his show. He got to wrestle in WrestleMania. He was the main guy on SmackDown until he got a job on College Game Day. He is just all over the place. And I think is just like completely dominating the sports media landscape in a way that no punter ever should be able to.
Stay tuned when we do the wrestling show. That's all I'll say from my stuff. But Pat McAfee could still be coming up for that a lot, but he was someone I considered too. Dev?
Oh, man. Now I just got to pull something out of my ass. Let's go with the old standby, Gus Johnson.
Yes. He was vaping today. He was vaping during this broadcast.
That's why he's in my head. I did see that clip. He's like watching live stats or something and pulling out fat drags.
If I had the over-under for someone that was going to smoke and do a broadcast, I would have picked Bill Walton easily. Easily.
Yeah, no, that's probably a good one.
Yeah. Biggest sports crossover. This is the athlete that has crossed over to the mainstream the best. And you're starting to see more in commercials and starting to become to that level of an athlete. I don't think anyone took a major jump this year. I think there was athletes that we thought were going to happen, right? I think a Mac Jones being a Patriot, you would have thought that would have happened. Obviously, we're seeing a lot less Baker Mayfield commercials this year for a reason. Dev, you got to answer one of these first. So I'm going to go to you.
God damn it. So we're talking strictly like we're talking about people like do commercials count as being a crossover athlete? Is it the fact that your mom knows your name? Like a Gronk, like a Brady, like a LeBron, right? That even like a Ronda, for example, right? I mean, I have my answers, but it's not from the big four. So if you want me to go, I'll go. No,
well, like you want me to.
Like Max Verstappen is probably one. Something that comes to mind right away. That's probably the obvious answer. I mean, if I'm going strictly off of like, does your partner or your mom know who this person is? Like, it's got to be Aaron Judge this year.
It's a good one.
Right? Like, and even though like he's literally one of the three most famous baseball players the last 10 years. He's not a breakthrough athlete in my opinion, but in terms of like pop culture, I think Aaron Judge is the answer.
I went to the UFC for this one. I'm going to Patty Plymouth, who is definitely getting to that way. I think this Ariel feud definitely helped things out a little bit. Having Connor in the back pocket. Maybe I'm a year ahead of this one, but you're starting to the feud with MGF that's bubbling up. Maybe I'm a year ahead of it, Peter, but you can definitely sense this guy is the next big star that's coming out of the UFC.
Yeah, he's one of those guys who kind of gets the media aspect of it more than a lot of them do. And I think, like you said, like the thing with Ariel, and a big thing for him right now is Dana White loves this kid. So any UFC, anything that he's going to be on, or that he could be on. He is going to be. I want to do a sarcastic one and say Russell Wilson with the danger sandwich. And all of that has just broken through in just an amazing, really, truly inspiring sort of a way. And I am kind of vamping a little bit because I took this in a different way. For biggest crossover, I had LeBron doing, like, obviously people knew who he was. But he's doing like the Thursday Night Football, like barbershop thing. I took that as the crossover. So
that's
but
bad.
It's him he's not necessarily breaking into the mainstream with that by any stretch of the imagination. The Judge answer is a really, really good one. So I will go with Judge, but the LeBron one was kind of where I thought I would go.
Well, the idea of LeBron Media is not a bad one, though, because LeBron's media company, going from what he was as an athlete to what he is as a media personality now, has completely changed. So that's not a bad one to go with.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Best sporting platform. So this is like best streaming service, more or less, that you can get to watch that. We have a fan joining Peter right now. Yeah. I know what the worst one is, and that will probably be Sportsnet at times, especially if you're trying to watch NHL or WWE Network on there, as Peter definitely knows WWE on there. Really going back to crossover, I was this close to picking MJF because still kind of counting that, and I think MJF really took another level there. For best platform this year, though, weirdly, Disney Plus, specifically in Canada, who is really jumping up now and getting better sports documentaries up here, and kind of slowly all that, because TSN, it was so hard if you live in Canada to get access to those documentaries. They, on the app, they didn't have them at first. You had to watch them on your iPad. You couldn't screen any of them. But then stuff like the Jeter doc, Man of the Arena, the Laker doc from Hulu, a lot of those are coming now up here to Disney Plus Canada. So and then we'll see where the live sports aspect going, which I think in the next year or so, when this WWE deal ends and the NBA and the NHL are coming up, and we see these media companies like Netflix, like Amazon, that are going to probably take a bite. We've already seen what Apple has done with baseball this year, which was a different story times for Blue Jays fans and other fans with them, though it was awesome to hear Katie Nolan on a broadcast. But I'm going to go Disney Plus Canada and them kind of getting into the documentary side of things.
Nice.
Dev?
That's a good call.
Well, it seems like we're a year or two away from really having definitive answers in terms of these large sports franchises and leagues making big decisions on where they're going to go. So I will bite my tongue a little bit on the idea of streaming live sports, because that answer could change literally in weeks.
It's Apple or Amazon right now for that.
But from this year, you would think it has to be Netflix with the Untold series.
That's a good point.
And that's a series, like, I always kind of go back to like the partner, mom, girlfriend question. And that's a series that kind of transcended for a brief period of time, transcended the idea of being a sports fan and just brought human interest stories with a sports lean to people. Then having your
F1
partner
show too.
Drive to Survive is huge. I mean, we can go back to Crying Jordan, which will give us content for years and years and years. But just the idea of like your partner like looking over and being like, "Did you know about this Manti Te'o situation?" And being like, "Girl, let me tell you a story," because everyone that was like one of the first viral sports stories that had nothing to do with sports really in the 21st century, and everyone had an opinion on it, and then it just disappeared. So to kind of get that reinvigorated is really cool. So
I had Netflix as well. Like the Drive to Survive is always a crowd pleaser. And now they're doing kind of the same thing with golf as well. Like they're expanding that, and like you said, all the documentaries they had on before. I remember I don't think it was 2022, but watching the Aaron Hernandez documentary on there, and like while it's all playing, I was like, oh yeah, I remember all this. And like my wife was watching, like, you knew? It's like, well, I didn't like
Why didn't you tell me?
No. Yeah, exactly. I wasn't there. I couldn't like profess to his guilt or anything like that, but I knew all this was going on. Yeah. I wanted to give an honorable mention to DAZN, just because like of all the places you can stream live sports in Canada, it sucks the less. And there are a number of different like options on there. Like their NFL stuff is good. Their boxing coverage is phenomenal. And
like, they got TNA now.
Yeah, for some crazy reason they have Impact Wrestling. So and like that, there's MLB Network on there as well. Like there's actually Eurobaskets on there. There's a sneaky amount of good stuff on DAZN. So honorable mention to them for not being dreadful like TSN and Sportsnet can be for those of us who are cable cutters. But yeah, Netflix takes this one, I think, for sure.
Next is best sports doc. Lord knows Devan and I got a handful of these as we were lucky enough to participate in SIF this year. There was a lot to go with. There was some really, truthful and hard-hitting ones like Black Ice that was produced by LeBron and Drake. The Imagine series, talking about Indigenous culture and becoming mascots in sports that Devan and I got to talk to the founders of the film. That was really, really cool. Grizzly Truth, which I think is really good. But for me, the one that just took me away, and it's one of the best films I saw this year, was Icebreakers, which is the movie on the 72 Summit series, which did such a good job. And I had such a different experience of this too, because I got to watch the screener of it, then interview the director, and then sit in the theater for the premiere with the director and then help him answer questions afterwards about the film. And it is an unreal experience getting to sit next to a director and watch the film and go back and forth talking about things. And for someone that wasn't obviously around for the Summit series, we've all heard, Henderson scores, right? But to be in that position and to feel like they made you feel like you're actually watching the athletic competition as those games are going on, just a phenomenal job. So I'm going with that one right there.
That's a good one, because when I saw, like, when I got the list of the sports docs that were coming to write a story on it, I saw there was one on the 72 series, and my first reaction was to kind of eye roll. I was like, oh, what haven't we heard about Henderson scores for Canada? It's like, yeah, those damn dirty Russians, and then a dude fell and he scored, and that was awesome. But to get kind of a new perspective on that and a new look on it, I thought it was really, really good. I wrote the Jeter series. It was a whole documentary series of me growing up in baseball. Like, baseball is my first love. It will always be my first love when it comes to sports. And that era, as much as I hated the Yankees, it was still like, you could kind of like remember being the 8-year-old finally getting to stay up to watch the Padres get the shit kicked out of them. And then kind of see that the Yankees try to try to get that back after 2001 when they lose to the Diamondbacks, and excuse me, kind of see Jeter's frustration through some of that, and at some current Yankees maybe. I thought it was really well done. So the Jeter series is mine.
Yeah.
Scott, you kind of talked about it briefly, but I also want to nominate Josh for the biggest humble brag of the podcast, sitting with the director and helping with the Q&A.
Yeah.
So great job. Just high five, man.
The name drops won't stop.
It has to be Imagining the Indian. To bring a human face to why these sports teams need to be changed, and how we as a society are changing for the better, although it's in a lot of ways it's a very, very, very slow grind. And it's, the work for people who are disenfranchised or underrepresented, especially by serious media, never stops.
It was really enlightening documentaries, being a Caucasian male too. And just when we got to have, forgive me for the name, but the chief that we had on the pod that we did, and just getting to hear him talk, and just getting to hear the documentary talk about, founders of an Indigenous community that passed bills and passed legislation that you had no idea that you weren't learning in a history class. That was a really cool part of the documentary as well.
Absolutely.
So we move on to best Canadian, Peter.
Yeah, in an Olympic year, this is normally easier to
I
know. But there wasn't a whole lot that kind of stood out, and I don't want to go with the hockey player just out of principle.
It is easy. It is easy.
Yeah. Yeah, it's Sarah Nurse. Like a billion points in 4 games in the Olympics. Like just an unbelievable performance. It was Sarah.
No, it's not. It's Christine Sinclair.
Oh yeah.
Voted FIFA football player of the year, whatever she was nominated for in January, as having the most goals for club and country.
Yeah, that's a very good one. Well, and it was funny with her, the disrespect when Davies got the goal, and it's like they've never scored a goal in soccer before, and they like zoom on Sinclair.
Yeah.
Like, okay.
Or Ronaldo was the first player to ever score in like 5 World Cups or whatever it was. Sinclair did that a while ago, but thanks for coming.
So she was awarded the best FIFA Special Award as the world's all-time leading scorer.
Wow, that's pretty good.
Wow, not bad.
Yeah, Sinclair's a great pick, and you made I'm going with Sarah Nurse, just the level of all the stuff Canada hockey won this year, and that was the one thing that did stick out from this Olympic team. It was the Canadian women team going against the Americans again. They beat them in dramatic fashion. The last Olympics, and Canada wanted to get it back. And she seems to, this whole Nurse family is just, I mean, you could go with Kia at some points too. Kia unfortunately got hurt this year, but you could put Kia on best broadcaster, and Darnell's doing his thing up in Edmonton. That whole Nurse family is tremendous. And now Sarah is the latest addition that's starting to take over. What a talented, awesome family.
Yeah.
Best international, to me, this is Mbappe. I'm going to give Mbappe his flowers right here. He gets the golden boot at the World Cup. And I mean, we could talk about best crossover athlete. I guess maybe it by this time next year, maybe it is him. Maybe that is the actual answer, is Mbappe, because what he just did less than over 24 hours ago from when we recorded this, getting those 3 goals, putting him on his back, people calling him out on social media saying he should be sad and whatnot, almost had a 4th goal. If he just takes a turn just a little bit more slightly, potentially has 4 goals and a game winner in the World Cup. What a special player. With the rumors of Messi maybe going to Miami, he's going to be on the club by himself and having even a bigger role. The kid's only 24 years old. He's got at minimum 2 World Cups left ahead of him. He is unbelievable, and we go with Mbappe.
I'm going to go with Messi for the reasons that we described earlier. The last couple of weeks felt like his coronation. So I'm going to go with Messi.
Dev?
I've talked about him many, many, many times before on previous sports podcasts. His name is Ronnie O'Sullivan. He's the world's best snooker player. 7-time world champion, current number 1, as he's been for a long time. Won his last world championship at 46 years old. Now tied for the most ever. The guy is basically, he was bred to play snooker. He's basically the Tiger Woods of snooker, if you don't know Peter, and is the most electrifying, exciting player on the tour, and such a huge celebrity in the UK.
Next up, we're gonna go with best local. Now, this does not technically have to be a Calgarian in its own right, because we're not watching every single high school game. So this is more in a sense of excluding the Calgary Flames and the Calgary Stampeders away from the big pro teams. So we're talking about more of the collegiate teams and the outside teams that are, contending to stuff. And I could go into the basketball round. This award's also the only award that we have named. It's the John Smith Memorial Local Award, named after great basketball player that played in this city named John Smith, who was tragically taken from us a year plus ago. So it's named after him. And to me, this is a no-brainer for best local athlete, because people came to watch this man, and he only had to pitch maybe 9 pitches in a game. And his name is Matt Wilkinson, who, as Peter knows, got in to see this guy play. Sometimes it took 10 pitches when he came in to close. And it was something I have never seen. I've been behind the booth 10 years now calling game. I have never seen an athlete like this guy come in, to the point I almost cursed on air for the first time in my life with how impressive this guy is. As soon as he came in closing, you could tell batters were like, oh man, this is not going to be good for us. So I am going to go with the big man, Matt Wilkinson, who helped the Okotoks Dogs win a championship.
So I went a bit of a different direction, and if I haven't captured the spirit of it, you can tell me and I'll try to change on the fly. I went Sam Matakubi, we had a kid from Calgary play in the World Cup. That felt like
that counts. That counts, man.
That felt like a pretty big win for old local sports here. So that's what I went with.
That definitely counts, and that's a big deal. This one's kind of up in the air. You can kind of go with legit Calgarian, or I just kind of also, if you give a play like that's not going to get the shine all the time, or some of the local collegiate athletes that we have playing right here. Dev?
Cale Makar.
I guess that counts.
He's a local boy. I don't know.
Yeah. Brought the Stanley Cup to Calgary. So yeah, that works.
Yeah, that counts. And not one of those people that's like, he's not one of those people that like was born in Calgary, lived here until he was 2, and then moved somewhere else. And he's considered himself like a Philadelphia native. Like the guy grew up in Calgary, played for Calgary, U15, U17 teams before going to college.
Then we go to these athletes now, and best WNBA player. Peter and I are just going to take this. We're going to give Devan a little bit of a break. Peter, to me, there's 2 choices here. Which one are you going to go with?
I went Aja Wilson. MVP. Vegas won the WNBA championship. She had a double-double in the clinching game. Like that. I mean, it seems too easy to take the MVP, but like she was just so incredible this year.
I wanted to go with Plum because she was fantastic, and she gave Charles some shade yesterday about winning a championship, what it's like, and that was fantastic. But I went with Aja too. Just got her flowers. Just got back from Vegas, and there's obviously more Vegas Raider and Derek Carr and Devontae and Waller stuff around there, but there is a lot of Aja Wilson stuff around there. Mm-hmm. Trust me. And like there's nice stuff there too, but they love Aja Wilson there. Tremendous season by Aja Wilson. Best NBA player. Peter?
Steph. Yeah, like NBA championship. He was playing at an MVP level to start this year as well. Like he just, he's Steph Curry.
Can I just say though, what Nikolai Jokic just did yesterday?
Yeah.
40, 27, and 10. That's only been done since Wilt Chamberlain. And, the talk had been up until this point, as we record this on December 19th, that, Jason Tatum's the MVP. Jason Tatum's the MVP. It's like, yeah, maybe we're just going to have to give it to Joker again because these numbers are stupid.
Yeah. Yeah. That was ridiculous against admittedly barely an NBA team, but just an absurd performance.
Okay, now we go to best MLB player, Dev.
He hits home runs and he pitches. His name Shohei Ohtani. Yeah. Like, what more do you want from a guy in 2022? He plays 2 positions.
I picked Ohtani as well.
I went back and forth on this one, like everyone did. I get like Ohtani pitches, obviously, like phenomenal player. I did go Aaron Judge, 62 home runs. Nice. He played center field for the best team or one of the best teams in the American League this year. So I went Aaron Judge.
Dev, I'm guessing you went with Cale Makar for NHL player.
No.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
That's what I didn't have to research.
Peter, are you going with the native Calgarian?
I'm staying on his team. I'm going Nathan McKinnon. Like just watching him in the playoffs. Obviously, like Cale Makar also phenomenal, but Nathan McKinnon is just he's so good.
We got to get a soundbite of that.
He's so good. This was a tough one. I mean, Draisaitl I thought was so good, and Connor did so good, but one team won the Stanley Cup. And I'm going to leave Devan on his Makar Isle. I'm going to go with Nathan McKinnon as well for all the reasons Peter was talking about, because he's so good.
So good.
That's fine.
Best NFL player. Look, you can go a lot of ways in this. Jalen Hurts is going to win the MVP, but it's Patrick Mahomes. This guy lost, Tyreek Hill, and there was all these conversations of like, well, the Broncos loaded up and the Chargers loaded up and the Raiders have loaded up as well. And I don't know if the Chiefs are going to no, he's just really ridiculously good at football. And it doesn't matter if it's Juju or whoever it is. It's Patrick Mahomes.
I think he's definitely the best NFL player right now, but I think the guy who had the best 2022 was actually Cooper Kupp. Even going to the Super Bowl when the Rams just decided, hey, we should try to win this thing. Let's just throw every pass to Cooper Kupp.
Yeah.
They did that and then won the thing. And then this year, any struggles they had were not on him. He gets banged up here at the back end of 2022, but he was like super duper star before that. And Patrick Mahomes, again, taking nothing away from him, but the AFC title game against the Cincinnati Bengals, where they just kind of brain fart that game away. There was none of that on Cooper Kupp's resume this year, so I went Kupp.
Yeah, I was deciding between two Rams there with two players. Another Ram with Aaron Donald as well. He was there, but Cooper Kupp's a great pick. Dev?
Oh man, I'm having a hard time distinguishing between being the best player and being people who are really, really good at their craft, but also at the same time just producing all these like viral nuggets. I think of NFL players, and for some reason, I think of Kirk Cousins with chains on a private plane. And how does that not influence me to want to cheer for the guy? So kind of staying within that lane, I think what Justin Jefferson does is basically otherworldly. Now I will throw a little bit of shade at his quarterback, and Kirk Cousins is you win your fantasy football weeks if he plays well, or you lose your fantasy football weeks if he doesn't play well. Even if you don't have him on your team and you have Minnesota Vikings on your team, you'll win or lose depending on how he performs. But I couldn't imagine, could you imagine Justin Jefferson with like an elite level quarterback? Like it'd be game over.
Yeah. Best college athlete. I'll take this one. I don't think there was as much as I want to be a homer and go to a certain player. I'll get to him later, but to me, the best collegiate player this year. Well, there's a guy, Anderson in Alabama is fantastic. I'm going with Caleb Williams. Unfortunately, that Utah game didn't go the way that he wanted, but he wins the Heisman. Everyone's talking about him being the next great quarterback, and he sure showed it for a good portion of the season. So I'm going with Caleb Williams out of USC. Peter?
I'm going to go Caitlin Clark for Iowa. She's pulling up from 3-pointers from the logos. She is much watch anytime they are on. So I didn't think there was like that one standout for anywhere else. And I thought she kind of stood out the most amongst any of the college sports. And I'm sure someone balled out in track and field this year, but of the ones that I pay attention to, Caitlin Clark was the one for me.
She was fantastic. Another solid women's tournament this year. Dev?
Who won the Heisman this year?
Caleb Williams. That's who I went with.
That guy.
Okay.
It's tough because we didn't really have like how sometimes like women's gymnastic just produces like a whole day of content. We didn't really have that this year as we did previous years. So it's tough to kind of find a diamond in the rough. So we're just kind of looking at, March Madness performers, women's March Madness.
Well, like Caitlin Clark's a great one because Paige out of UConn, she missed a good portion of the year with that leg injury. And if not, she probably would have been it.
She blew her ACL out.
Yeah. So give her all the NIL money because she's really good. And Caitlin Clark definitely filled in a hole with her gone. Olympic athlete, like we said, was a little bit of a disappointing Olympic year. So Devan, I know you have the answer for this one.
What? I've tried so hard to Google Olympics 2022. Oh my goodness.
I'm just going with Sarah Nurse, to be honest.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Fine by me.
One of us.
Yeah.
Fine by me.
That's our first sweep. This one I'll leave to Peter then, because this is mainly his territory more than any. So best fighter is up in the air. You can do MMA or boxing, but Peter, take it away.
You have no idea how accurate that is, up in the air. There wasn't really a standout guy for 2022 or girl. I'm going to say Alexander Volkanovski, two absolutely stunning performances in title fights this year. And he just booked himself a third one coming up in February, where he's going to go try to be a champ, moving up from 145 pounds to 155 pounds against Makachev in February next year. I think he is one of the most technically sound fighters we've ever seen. And with Usman losing this year and Adesanya losing this year, the door opened up for Volkanovski to kind of be the pound for pound king now.
Dev?
This is going to be a little bit of a left field, but I think my thought process will make sense. I'm going to say Raul Rosas Jr., 17-year-old signed to UFC.
Mm-hmm.
Like that is, being around minor, semi-professional, professional athletes for a lot of our day jobs and income. Like you kind of see, you understand exactly why some people get to where they're at, watching them train, perform, work out, even just walk into a room. And for a 17-year-old kid to be noticed and signed to the biggest MMA card is like what people must see in him on a day-to-day basis must just blow everyone away.
Yeah, no, that's a good call.
That's a great one. I went with Tyson Fury. He claims to be the best boxer in the world. Any of the fights that he has, he's taking them right now. And I don't know who's going to stop the guy right now. That conversation too is, I've had a few people ask me like, well, is he the best boxer? It's like talking about best UFC fighter, right, Peter? Because the levels of where everything went, where Couture was when he was at his limits, or where Iceman was, or where Brock was, and so on and so forth, compared to today, it's such a harder level. Even Shamrock, it's such a harder level to really judge as the sports evaluate and change throughout the years.
Yeah, professional athletes have changed in every sport, right? I saw a TikTok today where the Kelsey brothers have a podcast, and they were saying, could the best college football team of all time beat the worst NFL team of all time? And the initial answer is no, because it's grown men. But it's like, that Georgia team looks a hell of a lot different than the grown men who were playing in the NFL in leather helmets in the 50s. Athletes have evolved and changed, So yeah, like Tyson Fury, and fighting is such an interesting one too, because Volkanovski, you put his talents in someone who's my size, and you have one of the scariest human beings that's ever existed. But Tyson Fury at 6'9", he uses that size to his advantage. So it is a debate that you will never be able to solve, but it's so fascinating.
And he got in a whole arena to chant American Pie after being mad Drew McIntyre lost.
That's also true. Yeah. Speaking of crossovers, there you
go. Biggest disappointment of the year. It's got to be the Duke Blue Devils blowing it for Coach K in his last year.
Oh boy.
I was waiting for that to come on.
Gotta be.
Oh boy.
They have Paulo, they had AJ Griffin, they had this kid Roach, Mark Williams. It's a fantastic recruiting class. And not only do you lose and see your coach leave, you lose to their arch rivals across the hill in Chapel Hill and see them go down. So that had to be the biggest disappointment for any team. Decent favorites go into the game. And on the biggest stage in the Final Four, first time they ever faced their rivals, they let their coach and their fans down as they lose to North Carolina.
Was waiting for that.
Devan?
Wow. There's a lot here. We could stick locally. I think there's a lot of high hopes for the Flames last playoff run.
Yeah, this can be team and player, by the way, as well.
That's kind of where I'm bouncing around to. Even hustle bustle Russell Wilson in Denver.
Oh, he's going to come up a lot.
Is that just the most obvious one? I think it is. So I really want to.
That was my backup.
I really do want to say even like the Toronto Maple Leafs playoff collapse, the Panthers.
Panthers is a good one.
The Panthers losing 1-8, like that's not very good either. But I think we'll stick with football. I'll say Russell Wilson to the Broncos.
I went the entirety of the NBA playoffs. It felt like okay. Four games on the schedule. 4 games on the schedule. First one. Okay, yeah, it's a 30-point blowout, but we'll get to the next one. Oh, that one's a 25-point. Okay, well, that's fine. I can gear up, get right. Oh, it's 25 points. Okay, and then like it just you kept waiting for it to get better. And there were some good games like Embiid hitting that buzzer beater and all of that. But like even like game 7, I guess Grant Williams just turned into Larry Bird for 3 quarters and this game's over. And then the Suns fell apart. Like there was storylines, but it wasn't fun. So I'm going to say NBA playoffs.
You didn't have a game. There was one OK Memphis and T-Wolves game. The best game was probably the Clippers and Minnesota game where Pat Bev was popping bottles
Yeah.
for the play-in game. That was probably the best game, but I love that. That's one of my favorite answers. If I didn't want to love my answer so much, I would, as I'm hating on Duke a little bit, but that is a great answer, Peter. And you and I remember talking about it on the show, just how boring. And on the side too, when you're going against the NHL, you could see it a little bit in the ratings as the NHL gained some steam during in stage 2 with having the TBS and the ESPN on the playoffs this year. You could see a little bit of gained steam there because it was a really bad NBA playoffs this year. Like, you can always remember at least one really good game, right? And even the finals were okay. The only game I really remember was Tatum with the buzzer beater against the Nets, and then the Jimmy Butler miss. Those are the only 2 games I can really remember.
Yeah.
And
but even in the finals, it was, Boston's pulled ahead. Golden State just didn't miss a shot in the third quarter and the game's over. Great.
Yeah. That's a great answer. Biggest heartbreak of the year, Peter.
It has to be the Bills losing in the final 13 seconds of that game against Kansas City.
Yeah.
You look at how everything else played out. I think they would have done horrible things to the Bengals offensive line and had a chance to win a Super Bowl. And they had it with 13 seconds left and couldn't hold on. So to me, for a fan base that is so passionate, it's prime time. The Bills are finally in the spotlight again. And that happens is just soul crushing.
That's a great one. Yeah, that was rough, Dev.
Jeez, that's a tough one. We just watched a lot of heartbreak with the beautiful game, but
like Harry Kane.
Does a team not expected to do well losing, does that count as heartbreak, or is this like is this an assured victory snatched out of your grip?
The Bills, because they have those 4 Super Bowls that they went to and lost, and then it was all that time without it. So it's been building up for Bills fans. So that's why I think Peter's answer kind of hits this perfectly.
For sure.
Yeah.
Is it like, it's just so tough because heartbreak comes in many different ways, but sometimes it's almost like, is it, if it's expected, does it hurt more? Does it hurt less?
Yeah.
If you're a team, if you're the Padres and you get busted for, performance enhancing drugs, then basically you lose.
Or the Blue Jays and your 2 guys run into each other.
Right. Like all those kinds of things. Is it a bad trade? One that sticks out to me though is Alabama losing to Tennessee. College football. Like that was a team that was basically poised for a deep playoff run, and who for the second time in college football history, they will not be in the postseason. So,
and Tennessee won the SEC, if I'm not mistaken.
I think they lost again.
Georgia did. Georgia did. Yes.
They lost like in the last weekend. So,
but yeah, you look at how the playoffs shook out. That the committee was begging to be able to put Alabama in, and if they don't lose that game, they probably do, right? So that's a good one.
Those are great. But nothing's like losing your head coach that has been the heart of your team for years and years. So the biggest heartbreak, much like the biggest disappointment, is the Duke Blue Devils seeing Coach K leave their team in the Final Four to their biggest rival on a shot by Caleb Love with 20 seconds left to put the North Carolina Tar Heels away and end the career of Mike Krzyzewski.
Wow. You'd like, if he died, you're gonna like spit on his grave, aren't you?
No, I respect the hell out of K. It's just, they do line up. Worst team of the year. I could take this one, guys. It's the Los Angeles Lakers.
Oh, I do not consent to any of this conversation, but go ahead.
This is the team so they have the year from hell, you can argue, right? I mean, first they make this trade for Russell Westbrook, doesn't fit on the team. Then Anthony Davis gets hurt. Then LeBron gets hurt. They miss the play-in game. Blame it all on Frank Vogel. They win a great game at the end of the year. Everyone's elated. But they fire Frank Vogel in the middle of the last game, and then they deny it. They deny it. Woj breaking this. I think it's as Mac McCullen sends the Lakers into overtime, and they win this big game over the Nuggets. It's a moral victory for some of these young players going forward. But there's all these reports about him getting fired. It was reminiscent of the Magic Johnson stuff all over again when Magic came in and he just left. you get to the offseason for this Laker team, and it's like, okay, well, we know we have to trade Russell Westbrook. We only have a few years left of this generational player in LeBron James. What are we going to do? We're going to add Juan Toscano Anderson and Troy Brown and Lonnie Walker, who has turned out. And then we're going to trade for Patrick Beverly. And we're going to hire Darvin Ham, which is the one good thing they have done. And then you come to this season, and then, like I said, there's a rumor trade with the Jazz, but it's Pat Beverly. And as the season goes on, you're consistently wasting one of the greatest generational players of all time in LeBron James. There's the trade rumors that go on and on. There's finger pointing all the time. You're getting to see Kyle Kuzma go on and have career highs. With the Wizards, you're seeing Brandon Ingram turn into a superstar in this league. You're seeing Julius Randle now back to an all-star form. You're seeing Jordan Clarkson getting himself into an all-star form, and seeing him have left the franchise a few years ago. Jeannie Buss nixing trades for top-ranked players because she doesn't want this Russ thing to look like a failure and the Lakers to have egg in the face. Sorry, Jeannie, they already have egg on their face. This is a team that's at the level of a Cowboys or a Yankees or a Manchester United, who rightfully so is having a rough year in their own right. But this is just such a disappointing run of management by a team that should be at a level. And you've seen this with the Lakers before when Jeannie Buss didn't help anything with Kobe in his later years. You're seeing it now with LeBron and how the Lakers have gone into this season. So I'm going to go with the Los Angeles Lakers as the worst team.
Did you do that all in one breath?
Yeah.
All compelling, very accurate arguments. I was going to say Brooklyn just because of the obvious.
That was up there.
But I get bored of talking about them, so I wanted to go with a different direction. And this is another bit of kind of grave dancing. I'm going to say the Boston Red Sox, who they didn't have a particularly dreadful season. They didn't play well, but all like going up to the trade deadline and then this offseason, the main thing was, we're going to re-sign Xander Bogaerts. Yes, we traded away Mookie Betts, who went on to win a World Series and MVP things with the LA Dodgers, but we're keeping Bogaerts here. And then they didn't. And now when you're looking at this from a Red Sox fan standpoint, it's like, great, we got a ton of money, hypothetically, maybe that we
Justin
could spend.
Turner.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's like, okay, so is Devers going to
lose JD Martinez too, by the way. JD Martinez gone as well.
JD Martinez as well. Like there's nothing to get excited about. And you look at the rest of the American League East, like the Orioles, I don't know how for real that was, but it was more than a little bit for real. The Blue Jays improved their pitching staff. I think they're going to be better. The Rays just always are better. The Yankees go out and get Rodon to a contract I never would have signed him to, but it makes them better this year. So the Red Sox feel like they are falling behind in a division that is extremely difficult to fall behind in. So while there were others that I think had more colossal failures, I just wanted to bring up the failures of the Red Sox because it pleasures me greatly.
You sure you didn't steal that transfer from Bill Simmons?
Maybe, yeah.
Because it sounds a lot. I think the penny pinching side, having family members that are Red Sox fans. My sister lives in England, and her waking up to that, I have never seen her curse or be upset more of letting Bogaerts go, specifically because they had a year prior, right? And you talk about teams in that American League that are going to learn from it, specifically that Blue Jays team. They're going to watch the Red Sox did and learn with guys like Bo Bichette and Vlad Guerrero and their young players. And for the Red Sox, they're going to be in a similar situation. They could be back on this list next year if they let Rafael Devers go.
Yeah. Well, and you're coming off of a year like they beat the Yankees in the playoffs. There was something building there. People talking about, Cora's back, that he's got this magic. He's one of the best managers in baseball. And they kind of just fell on their face this year. And now
cutting Jackie Bradley too, by the way, which made no sense because he was a decent player for the Jays.
There's just that there is no direction there right now on a team that should be able to print money. Like you play at Fenway Park, you're the Red Sox. It made no sense to me.
Dev?
Well, the AL East is the best conference in any sport.
Mm-hmm.
I think statistically it's one of the best, one of the hardest.
It's the NFC East because all the teams are in the playoffs right now, but you're not wrong.
Okay. Well, I mean, historically speaking, you have. Yeah. I'm not going to get into it. What was the question again?
Worst team.
Oh, this is tough. It's tough.
There's a lot of contenders this year. There's so many contenders.
I know, but there's also teams that I've looked at as, them not living up to their expectations. Does that make them the worst, right?
That helps. I think where Peter and I went, we went bad management. That's a way to go as well.
Well, at some point in time, we do need to talk about the Canada men's national football team. And I don't think they're the worst by any stretch of, any conceivable metric, but and maybe it's part of the fault of the fans for putting that hopes on them in a group stage that, as we saw, turned out to be really freaking hard. Are they a team are they kind of like a most disappointing team that we'd have to deal with?
I would do most disappointing. I wouldn't do worst.
No, I understand. The other thing that stands out to me is probably the Phoenix Coyotes.
Yeah, it's a good one. That's a good one.
There's a lot that we could talk about, including drafting players, which is a whole other can of worms.
Yeah,
that's totally not right. That's probably my obvious choice. But I just wanted to talk about Canada's soccer team for 30 seconds.
Okay, so you're gonna go Phoenix
on the Coyotes thing. I get it. It's adorable that Mullet Arena. It's 3,000 fans. It's like a college atmosphere. That's wonderful for college. This is the National Hockey League. It's a professional league. Like I hate that I have to feel like an elitist for saying I think it's kind of bullshit that they're playing in a thing that has the dressing room the size of my spare bedroom. I just think it's shitty.
Peter, is it the same size as? What's bigger, Okotoks Oilers arena or that arena? And I'm actually serious. I don't know the capacity of either, but is it eerily close?
It's comparable. Yeah. I think because of the track around in Okotoks, you could get 3,000 people there. They'd be very cozy, but you could get it. So yeah, it's just, they're making the best out of a bad situation, but it's a bad situation they put themselves in. And I think we can say on one hand, yeah, it sounds nice and loud in there and that's fun, but also this is really fucking stupid for a professional hockey team to be playing in a college arena of that level.
Yeah. Last year was a sweep for the Jets, which good for them. They turned it around.
Yeah. One good draft.
Yeah. Worst transaction of the year. I think this is going to be a sweep. Peter.
Well, now I'm nervous. You go first. What?
It's got to be Russell Wilson, not just for the fact of it has been a disappointing season for them, but he's been disappointing. He still has less touchdowns than he has bathrooms in his house. That's a very important stat to keep track of. The worst part about this for Russell Wilson and for the Broncos, though, is so let's say you are a team like, let's say the Raiders, and they're underwhelmed by Derek Carr this year. They can get out of that contract. They only have to pay $5 million, right? You look at teams like the Jets and Washington that are a little bit underwhelmed with their quarterback situation. You can make things work. Same with the Giants. The Broncos cannot cut Russell Wilson for 5 years unless they want to eat upwards of $95 million in dead cap. They just said, hey, this guy's great. He's had Pete Carroll for his whole career. That doesn't matter. He's been better. We're going to ignore watching Seahawks games for the last 2 years where he kind of sucked despite having Tyler Lockett and having DK Metcalf. He'll be fine. We have Sutton, who is an up and down receiver that consistently gets hurt. Jerry Jeudy, who is borderline a bust at this point. I hate that word, but he is. We don't really have a proven tight end, but hey, he'll fit. And hey, we hired Hackett thinking that Aaron Rodgers is going to be here, but hey, this will work perfectly fine. And it has been an absolute disaster, from the birthday stuff to locker room stuff to all the cringy stuff that Russell did that doesn't really matter to this. The transaction itself hurts them on the field and it hurts them off the field for the next 5 years, because it's not like the Broncos can just draft a quarterback. They are indebted to this guy for the next 5 years at a heavy dead cap money situation that they either have to just eat and suck it up, but potentially I just don't think that's going to happen. So for the next 5 years, this team is stuck with this debt for a team that has still not really found a quarterback since Peyton Manning. And really, even before Peyton, they got those few years of Peyton, but even before Elway, they still have not found a franchise level quarterback.
Yeah. I mean, to me, it's the best transaction, but I'm a Raider fan, so I've enjoyed this greatly. But no,
is that how? Oh, gross. Is that how you guys became such good friends?
No, hey, blame Haley.
Yeah. But no, like it's the fact that what you gave up to get him what the money that
Two
is
firsts,
locked
2
into him.
seconds.
Yeah, and just how royally screwed you are. Like they had a defense that was top 5 in the league, and I think looking at their schedule, it might have changed because they traded Chubb. But I think if they just scored 24 points a game, they'd be like 11-1 or 12-1. Yeah,
19.
Yeah. So it's not even like it's just been so bad. It's been worse than anything I could have possibly imagined, and I didn't even think it would go that well. But I thought they'd at least be competitive in any game this year. And it's tough to watch. I mean, it's hilarious to watch, but it's tough to watch.
Yep. Dev?
Sweep.
Yeah. Sweep. Yeah. You had the danger witch, didn't you? You felt dangerous.
Let's ride.
Worst broadcast. I deeply apologize to this. I think they are lovely individuals, but it is getting cringy at times now with the biasness, and it's the Raptors. Now, when Kia Nurse or some of the women's broadcasters are on there, it's fantastic. I think Devlin is fantastic, but whenever he gets Jack on there, it becomes borderline cringy at times. Jack was at a fun level before, but now he's gone way too much. And the biasness that the Raptors broadcast have is just getting really, really bad. So I'm going with the Raptors.
Honorable mention to any home team who broadcasts any of their playoff games, whether it be hockey, baseball, basketball, whatever, because it's just like every play where there's like in basketball, anything contested at the rim, it's no call. It's not missed. It's no call. No one misses a shot in a playoff basketball game. It's just a no call in a playoff basketball game. I'm going to go a little bit off the board. I'm going to go SN bets, specifically during the hockey playoffs. That was overwhelming. And like as someone who dabbled in the sports gambling world maybe before all of this stuff became legal, all I ever wanted was just subtlety in coverage, like how the score used to have it, where it's just like, hey, this is the line for the game, these are the totals, that's all we needed. The XFL, when the second time when they had just like the line on the score bug, that's all we needed. We didn't need, hey, did you know you could bet on these games live or live or whatever? Like it was all over the place. It was every commercial break. It was every update. And like they have toned it down a little bit, but in the beginning, it had all the subtlety of a sledgehammer. And I hated it. And I'm someone who loves that type of content, but it was dreadfully done.
I love it. Great point there, Peter. Dev?
I'd have to agree. I mentioned that a little bit before, but a lot less eloquently than my colleague below me on the Zoom screen. The fact that talking heads and a lot of these shows are revolving around sports betting, gambling lines, and different kinds of props and things like that takes away from the actual analysis of the sport. Talking about who's going to win based off of a probability, which is developed by people and algorithms in Vegas and other places, the Bahamas for all we know, versus what an individual or a group of individuals do really, really well and how they match up physically is what I want to hear these people talk about, not what the odds are.
Yeah. Like I think that there's a way to, like Warren Sharp does it, I think, masterfully. He's brought new analytics into my world anyway, and discussed it. But you get some of the old like guys smoking around the sports book in Vegas in the 70s, like, hey, the 81% of the public's on this team. The public's stupid. I'm going with these guys. Like that kind of shit has started to work its way into sports talk way too much. And I'm with you. I hate that. If you want to, like, there's a subtlety to it where it's, oh yeah, I like this team because of this, and I think they're going to win by this much. That's great. But if it's, yeah, the public's on these guys, I hate the public play, I'm going with the underdog. Get the fuck out of here.
Great point. I love it. You know what? I'm going to change and go this week for you guys and be respectful because I do like Matt Devlin.
All right, then.
I don't want to disrespect Matty D. Matty D is great.
Sorry.
All right. Worst jersey. I'm going to go on this one. To me, there's some bad of the city jerseys and third jerseys, but to me, it's the Utah Jazz, who are having a nice season, but I've seen better jerseys in Mormon Rec League. than what these Utah Jazz jerseys are. These are just the laziest jerseys ever. And maybe it's because Danny thought this team wasn't going to be very good this year until Lauri Markkanen and Jordan Clarkson decided to be all-stars potentially. They are just so uninspired. I mean, it did give us if we didn't have that highlighter jersey, though, we would have maybe not seen the guy wearing a Donovan Mitchell jersey at the World Cup the other day, which is hilarious for many reasons. The fact that Donovan Mitchell never even wore that jersey is up there. So I'm going with Utah and their weird highlighting black jerseys.
Nice. That's good for you.
Mine, I think I'm cheating because it doesn't really have a whole lot to do with one that came out this year. I hate watching Padres games because of their jerseys. A brown and yellow color scheme will never be appealing in any world. It's like I cannot stand it. I liked what the Padres had, like I said, back in 1998 when the Yankees were curb stomping them in the World Series. Like that uniform with the orange and kind of a navyish, that was good. When you want to throw in a camo jersey every Sunday because half of your city has military people in it, wonderful. But the brown and yellow is just like I actively root against the Padres just so I don't have to look at their jerseys.
That's all one. Dev?
There's a lot of Padres hate on this podcast, and I'm not really sure why.
Well, gave them Juan Soto. That's
I've never talked about the Padres this much in my life, let alone my goodness. It's gotta be a couple of these reverse retro jerseys in the NHL, right? Like the two standouts are Detroit and Chicago. Those ones are pretty uninspired, even for teams that wore literal knit sweaters 100 years ago.
Yeah. Which one are you going with?
I mean, they're basically the exact same. That's kind of what one of the jokes and comments are. It's probably Chicago. Now, okay. Going back to what we talked about with managing the Indian and being connected to that production as we are, the Blackhawks probably have to go, and in fact, they definitely do have to go. In order, I'd have no suggestions as to what they should change to, but that reverse retro, pretty uninspired for a jersey that is generally well liked by the public.
Right. Now we go to, I changed it this year to disappointing athlete. I'm trying to be a little bit nice, not name worst. So disappointing athlete. So disappointing NBA athlete, I'm going with Anthony Davis, who turned it around a little bit down the stretch here, but I think that amplifies the point even more of you saw what this guy can do. And now it's almost eerie that he got hurt on the 18th of December last year, which really more or less ended his season. And he gets hurt on December. He got hurt in the air. How do you, it's like getting fired on your day off. Like he got hurt in the air. I don't know how that's possible. You have seen the potential he has when he can be himself, but consistently a letdown. They traded Brandon Ingram, Josh Hart, Lonzo Ball. They potentially will be giving Victor Wembanyama to the Pelicans with where they are right now. If the draft lottery balls go the right way for the Pelicans, and that makes this go to a whole other level. So unfortunately, I'm going disappointing athlete Anthony Davis, despite a nice push in the later side of November of this year. Peter?
So I have to admit, the spreadsheet that we had, it just said diss NBA. I was like, we're doing like guys who dissed players. So I have written down LeBron not shaking Westbrook's hand at Summer League. But I'm happy we are going with actual disappointing players because some of these were real
That's
stretches.
A good one, though.
Disappointing NBA player for me is Kyrie because he literally didn't play in some games. So
yeah, I've had him too.
I'm going to say Kyrie for reasons that should be extremely obvious.
Yeah, we could go a whole thing with Kyrie there. I'll let you lead this one, Peter. Disappointing NHL player.
Yeah, the fun thing about this year, like we talked about the playoffs, is that we talked about it when the playoffs were happening. It was a lot of star players kind of stepping up. And so there isn't really one to me, but to the one that jumps out. But to me, I think it's Binnington. Like he was the toast of the town when the Blues won the Stanley Cup. This guy got passed through waivers and no one claimed him. And now he's just kind of an asshole. Like he's just throwing water bottles at Nazem Kadri during interviews. He's body checking dudes for no good goddamn reason. His coach is calling him out. So I'm going to say Jordan Binnington.
I'm going to go with Johnny Gaudreau. This is the guy that was potentially, a Hart nominee, was up there in NHL scoring. As you know, doing the playoff shows there with Audie, you could go Kachuk on this one too for this Flames team. This was the Flames team that a lot of analysts had favored to win the Stanley Cup. They blow the Oilers off in that first game. He wasn't near there. Yes, he gets the game-winning goal against the Stars, but other than that, he was incredibly absent in the playoffs, and that has been a running situation for him. He's been fine with the Blue Jackets, but not the level that he was with the Calgary Flames this year. This is mainly more or less about his playoff appearance and really showing that when the playoffs come on and the bright lights come on, that unfortunately for Johnny, he disappears.
Yeah, no argument here.
Devan?
Both of those are phenomenal answers. I think you touched on it briefly. I'd say Kachuk. There's only so many times you can do like a behind the back pass behind the net towards the front of the net, and it goes in or it hits someone's stick, where it's really fun to watch, and then it just gets really tired when you do it for like the 9th time in one period. Not that I profess to be some kind of hockey guru, but that's like the Kachuk thing was getting old real fast. So
again, I don't think Peter's going to disagree with you.
No, I was ready to drive him to Florida by the time that that whole thing was done.
Like, just play fundamental hockey and things would be so much different. But we had a team full of 100 point scorers who gave us 13 points in like 13 games basically combined.
Yeah,
not good enough.
Dev, MLB.
Friggin' Mr. PED himself. Let's go back on the Padres hate train. Padres hate train. Woo woo.
Love that.
I love Tatis too. I'm going with it. Great one. Is that
it's a good one. And honestly, I'm disappointed I didn't pick it now. But I want to roll this Chapman. The Yankees bullpen just desperately needed anyone to get outs, and he
just doesn't show up.
Yeah, he just didn't. Out with a tattoo infection or something like that, which was so made up, but whatever.
Yeah.
And then didn't even make the playoff roster. And like they had a bunch of middle infielders they just didn't use in the playoffs. To not be able to crack that postseason roster is again, I shed no tears for him, but it's quite the whimper to end his career on.
I almost wanted to go with Vladimir Guerrero on this. Good season, but much kind of like I talked about with Johnny Gaudreau, completely disappeared for the Blue Jays in the playoffs when they really needed big bats from him. But he had a good enough regular season, and he was okay in the playoffs. He didn't completely disappear like Johnny did, but he was the honorable mention for me with Vlad Guerrero.
Hold on. You're talking about a Toronto Blue Jays player who, when in the playoffs, just wants to hit home runs. Like, I've heard the story many years in the making. But if I want to put it like a 1B to my nomination, and I would have to say Joey Gallo for the Yankees was another really weird story that
they really hated Joey Gallo as the year went on,
and then the Dodgers loved him. Like, I don't know.
Yeah. Disappointing NFL player. I feel dangerous, so I'm going to go with Russ.
Yeah, we just spent a long time shitting on him. So just to say a different one, I think Aaron Rodgers has been pretty disappointing this year.
Yeah. Aaron for Peter. Where are you going? You going Aaron or dangerous? Or sorry, unlimited. You do some high knees, Dev?
No, I'm going Baker.
That's a good one too.
Yeah, Raider fans aren't thinking that really.
No, but that's someone like who, was he supposed to be the heir apparent with the Joe Burrows, with the Patrick Mahomes? Maybe not to be at that tier of guy, but was he supposed to be like, in the next Andrew Luck, or just serviceable, bit of a personality as well? I guess, it didn't really work out for him. Or, I'll hold my breath, but you never know in football.
Disappointing athlete. So you could take any of these ones. You can go elsewhere. I went with Ronaldo. Everything that happened with Manchester United and then getting benched in the World Cup and not really showing up this year, and then losing the GOAT debates. Tough year for Ronaldo, so I'm going with Ronaldo.
Well, he got benched for performance, and then he got benched for not taking his benching very well in the second game.
Yeah.
So that was like someone's fault. Like, you know, we're talking about like the peak of someone to then fall as mightily as he may have. Like, we don't know what's going to happen next year, but ooh.
Where you going, Peter?
Yeah, Ronaldo's a good one. I will jump onto that one as well. Yeah, like you said, like the Man United thing has never worked. It's given him specifically a couple of decent moments, I guess, but for the team, it's been a bit more of a disaster as every day has gone on. And then, like you said, for the World Cup to go the way for him, and then his forever rival to finally get his trophy, that just solidified a real disappointing year for Ronaldo.
Dev, going for the sweep, or you got something else?
No, I was gonna say. Well, I was going to take a little more international. I was going to say McLaren's F1 team this year.
Okay.
And well, I mean, we could talk about a few F1 teams in general. We could talk about Ferrari's really, really hot start and then basically shitting the bed the last half of the season. We could talk about McLaren and Lewis Hamilton not performing to their peak abilities, although it seems like a lot of blame lays in the car, not the athlete. But F1, you know, they're kind of one and the same, right? So, are we talking about athlete team? Can I go?
I can accept that for motorsports. I'll accept that.
Yeah, I think basically any team not named Red Bull for F1, quite frankly. No, but in all honesty, the bigger disappointment is probably McLaren not showing up this year.
Devil, you lead this one. Biggest upset.
Saudi Arabia over Argentina in the group stage of World Cup.
That's one.
Yeah,
that's literally one of the biggest soccer upsets of all time.
Yeah,
yes, it is.
Japan it doesn't mean anything now. Or we can talk about we can talk about Morocco knocking off 3 former world champions with Spain, Portugal, and Germany.
That's a big one. Yeah.
That's probably. I mean, Morocco having their time in the sun, quite literally and figuratively, is probably my answer.
Okay, Peter.
I went into my wheelhouse. I went the fighting route. We had a couple this year, but Leon Edwards over Kamaru Usman. Even like,
yes,
with 2 minutes left in the fight, they were talking about how Edwards was just coasting to try to not lose, and then from the gods knocks out Kamaru Usman. So even like in the course of a fight, that happening was an upset, but going into it, I didn't give him much of a chance. No one really did. And then he knocked out maybe like the second or third best welterweight of all time. So I'm going to say Leon Edwards over Kamaru Usman.
What odds would you have given that fight, if you were a betting man?
Hey, if you were betting that one in fight, it was like minus 10,000 for Usman.
That was probably, the World Cup yesterday, we saw a lot of social media interaction with that. Then that went down. The social media platforms, whatever you want, was exploding about that fight.
Yeah.
Even if you weren't a big fight fan, it was hard to ignore what had just happened. Was that not the one they showed Rogan's face too? With what happened? Well, I know they've done it a few times, but
yeah, it's an all-time soundbite if you want to go back and watch it, because they are literally saying, like, for Leon Edwards to just not get finished would be a win. And then John Anik goes, yeah, but you can't really count out the fighting spirit. And then kadoosh, and Leon Edwards is the champion. Like, it was like a movie. It scripted out so well.
Those are good ones. I'm going to go back to March Madness into the Final Four when the heavily favored Duke Blue Devils were upset by North Carolina and lost their coach. Favored to win the championship, had more or less not much trouble beating anybody on their way to the championship, and then go down to an 8th-ranked North Carolina Tar Heel team.
Good for you.
And that's it. We're done now. We're done.
Yeah.
That was the last one. This one I put in here this year. There wasn't really a big retirement per se, I think, this year. Like the biggest one, I guess, would be taking Gronk seriously that he's retired.
I thought you put this in just to do another Coach K thing.
Yeah.
I went Serena Williams. She announced her retirement.
That's the answer. That's what I had. Yeah.
So that's where I'm going.
Yeah, that's where I'm going to.
Roger
I can't do
Federer.
the Coach K joke anymore. That's the one too.
Yeah, that's my answer.
Best team, Peter.
I went Georgia Bulldogs. I just like they were so much better than everyone. And I grew up a Miami Hurricanes fan. It takes a lot for me to say that a team rivals the 2001 Miami Hurricanes. I think in 10 years, we might look back at this era of Georgia Bulldogs, either last year or this year, and say, oh, this might be the greatest college football team of all time. Like they have NFL dudes everywhere except the quarterback position.
Yeah, I mean, you look at that, for anyone that hasn't, go look at that Hurricanes team. It is ridiculous. It is. I mean, even
it's
the
laughable how good that team is.
It's stupid. And you even look at a guy like Jalen Carter, who potentially could go first in this year's draft, who could be the next Aaron Donald, dare I say. He's just one of George Pickens, I believe, is on that team too. Like I could go on and on and on about quality athletes on that team.
Stupid how good that team is.
Yeah. I'm going with Georgia as well.
Damn. Well, put some respect on the name. It's Argentina.
Yeah,
that's fair.
Argentina.
Except for one little blip, like basically played a flawless tournament.
Yeah.
Best game. I wonder. I wonder.
No, I'm going to talk about some college game in January between,
Duke and North Carolina.
North Dakota Tech versus Belmont State.
The Youngstown Penguins, man, they had a good game versus them.
Come on, man. In
my lifetime, there's certain games you remember where you were, right? So being in Canada, obviously the Golden Goal game starts off with it. The 2012 women's hockey team winning when it hits the post and they come back and do their thing. For me, USC versus Texas, the national championship game, that always really stuck out. The Falcons come losing to the Pats. That one sticks out. This is the greatest sporting game I've ever seen in my entire life. Like you can't write how this is. The only unfortunate thing is that we had to go to penalties for it. That was the only bummer of the entire event, but you were on the edge of your seat for this entire game. This is the type of game the generations will go back to and say that's how they got them into an individual sport. That's how good this game was.
Yeah.
I watched from basically the start of extra time on. So I broke my boycott for, I guess it'd be a good reason.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a sweep.
Yeah. Yeah, Peter, you got anything to say on it?
Just incredible. Like it had a little bit of everything. Like it had the stakes. Obviously, it's the World Cup. There's giant stories on both sides, whether it be France looking to repeat or Messi for reasons we talked about throughout the show. You had Messi coming up in a big way. You have Mbappe really taking that step towards like immortality from a sporting standpoint. It had drama. It had star power. It had real stakes. It had everything. And I saw it in Spanish, so that was cool.
Yeah, that's very, very cool as well. Very, very cool as well. Best male athlete, Dev.
Wow. It's funny because I think a lot of people that we've talked about so highly on this last hour and a bit are all very, very well deserving. Is Messi more deserving than such and such? It's hard to vote against him though, and it's also partly because like we've had this in the previous shows before. Like if it was a good Olympic year, we just had Olympic athletes. If we had Canada women's soccer, we had that. But this year just happens to be a really good World Cup year, a really crappy kind of NFL playoffs, et cetera. So it's Messi.
Yeah, I got Messi as well.
I probably should have. I went Steph Curry. Just because of like how crazy his run was and then how he continued it in this year. But I mean, yeah, like for everything that just got accomplished in the last little bit, Messi is tough to argue with.
I'm surprised Devan didn't go with Cal McCarr, first of all.
I don't have like a man crush. It was just a guy's name that I heard a lot for like 3 weeks when everyone was talking about hockey playoffs.
No.
On the Steph point too, just what he was doing this season before the shoulder injury as we're recording, he was putting MVP like numbers up again and helping a Warriors team that is play-in bound right now and just struggling. And the rookies of Moody and Kuminga and Wiseman are playing a factor that and not being able to integrate them in correctly the way they wanted to. And Clay has taken a step back a little bit. And we didn't even talk about Jordan Poole getting punched in the face by Draymond Green this year. Maybe that should have been something, but Steph, definitely, he was my runner-up. I think if Messi doesn't win, maybe you go Mbappe, or maybe you go Steph Curry, or maybe you go Aaron Donald, but great athletes all around. Female athlete, Devan.
I already mentioned her, Christine Sinclair.
I went Sarah Nurse. Like the Olympics was just insane how good she was.
And I'm going with Audra Wilson.
Nice.
She finally got her chance to fully shine. Actually, you know what? I'm going to be sentimental with this. I'm going to go with Sue Bird.
Okay.
And that probably should, because I can't put her into retirement where Serena is, but Sue down the stretch this year had an absolutely, she went out bawling at the end, and we'll have the debate of who's the GOAT of it. I mean, Cheryl Miller will never get her full flowers, unfortunately, and neither will Doris Burke, because they'll never, and so many other great women athletes that we never fully got to see in the WNBA. But Sue just put on an absolute showcase this year, and hopefully next year we're talking about Brittany Griner in this position.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Biggest story.
To me, it came down to 3. So I'm interested where you guys went. For me, honorable mention to Live Golf. We've never seen.
That was up there, man.
We've never seen a major sports league in North America just get challenged before.
Yeah, it's true.
So that was, and like it wasn't well done, but it seems like going into this next year, like it's a legitimate challenge. Like there are going to be some golfers who the only time we see them are in the majors because they're off on the live on like a YouTube stream somewhere.
Tiger turned down how much? 7 million? 700 million?
Like the money they're throwing out is unbelievable. So I thought it was such a big story in that sport that I wanted to mention it here. You mentioned the Brittany Griner one that transcended sports, but to me, the whole Hockey Canada scandal, where like as it came out, there were more layers to it, and it was like that there were these allegations. And it goes back to 2003. And by the way, some of the money that like parents are paying into has gone toward dealing with things like this. Like it was just like shitty layer on top of shitty layer on top of shitty layer. And it's not just this rec league somewhere down the way. It is the institution that runs the sport in this country. Like it's mind boggling to try to wrap your head around. And some of the reporting on it has been phenomenal.
I'm going to go with Hockey Canada too, and you nailed everything you said there. But honorable mention to the reporter that passed away at Qatar. Passed away, I say in heavy quotations. That I wish it was longer time period. Unfortunately, the game started going, and we kind of forgot about it a little bit. But everything he was doing, reporting, was already a story, and it's right showing up with an LGBT shirt and getting turned away, and now the mysterious nature of everything that went around it kind of builds up to this whole negative side of Qatar that Devan had talked about. He had not wanted to that was the unfortunate thing about this World Cup this year, was as fun as it was, there was the worst taste in your mouth ever, already with FIFA in the first place, but everything that went around with Qatar, not to mention that picture with Elon Musk and Donald Trump's idiot stepson picture with all the sheiks yesterday didn't help make you feel much better about the skeevy people that are around the event. So everything around Qatar and the reporter going, that was horrible. Hockey Canada is obviously up there. A small degree of story as Adam Silver maybe ruining the NBA with all this stupid shit that he keeps on adding, from the preseason tournament to these G.I. Joe level awards that are named after like that just make no sense for some of the naming outside of the MVP with Jordan, and just not letting the NBA just be the NBA. And then just kind of a minute side that is going to be growing. And we kind of talked about it before, but the streaming side of professional sports right now, having sports is the biggest capital you can have on a network right now. If you have sports, you are king. We saw that from what that Cowboys Thanksgiving game did with the Giants. Unbelievable numbers. The numbers are coming in from Fox last night. from that World Cup. Fox had the privilege on a Sunday of going from maybe the greatest sporting event of all time in that World Cup right to a Jacksonville and Cowboys game. Jacksonville, maybe not as sexy of a name, but you have the Dallas Cowboys, and that led to the second wildest finish of that Sunday. The other one was the insanity of the Raiders and the Patriots game, which if we had biggest whoopsie of the year, maybe we would have given it to Jacoby Myers. But a lot to go on. But the Hockey Canada one just adds to another level that I can speak for myself and Devan that has rooted me more and more away from the game of hockey. Watching the documentary like Black Ice and the outer inclusion of a lot of minorities already takes me out of it a lot. And you've heard a lot of people in that, but then you see this, and we had the Chicago scandal with the Chicago hockey team, that scandal come up. And now we're coming to the Hockey Canada thing, and it's getting greasier and greasier and greasier. And it came around World Juniors, I believe, too, Peter, if I'm not mistaken, in August. Mm-hmm. And now we're coming back to World Juniors again, and Wnba, and I'm not saying Wnba is one of the names, but that's a local market player that we have here that's potentially associated with it. So that stuff, it adds another layer to it and continually gets worse. Dev?
Damn. Well said, both of you. Hockey in general, if baseball needs to change because it's boring, hockey needs to change because it's dangerous. It's dangerous for fans of the sport. It's dangerous in terms of the culture. Football needs to change because it is dangerous to the players and players' health. Basketball seems to be in a great spot right now in general. Biggest story of the year. I do gracefully bow out of certain conversations for various reasons, but it'd have to be Qatar and FIFA doing shady FIFA things as usual. And then even to the point where, North Korea being considered as a viable option for to host one of the next games. And then just Josh, to touch on one of your points again, Grant Wall was the journalist who passed away in Qatar. Mm-hmm. His autopsy revealed that he did have an aneurysm, which is a big silent killer. So as much as I don't like FIFA, I would love to talk about the inequities and inequalities that they've faced. I don't want to get into is it a conspiracy that because he wore a shirt, he's going to die?
Well, it comes down to his brother saying, there's death threats and all that stuff.
Of course there are. I'm sure there absolutely are. But that being said, living with a healthcare professional, aneurysms, embolisms, things that burst in your body are literally a dime a dozen. You can't tell until it happens. So it's unfortunate we lost somebody who's basically the Woj of soccer. But the controversy surrounding the World Cup in general was too big to ignore for me.
Yeah.
So they all sucked is what we were getting at.
Yeah, they all sucked. But I mean, on just to kind of end on a positive note, because I don't.
What's our happiest moment of the year?
Yeah, we should do happiest, because most of the time we do that. I would say, just kind of where I started, it was fantastic to see fans back in the arena, fans, being safe, getting to watch the World Cup and getting to see these countries embrace, whether it be my England fans watching Harry Kane shoot a ball to the moon, or getting to watch fans in Los Angeles getting to see the Rams win in person, or getting to see Colorado finally break the mold after all these years of getting so close and getting to that level, or, with Houston getting to win their championship, or with Golden State fans getting to see what they wanted, just to get to have that adulation from fans, even if it's something as crazy as the Chandler Jones play yesterday, and to get to see all the Vegas fans go crazy about that, and having a March Madness where you got to have all the fans of all the teams and have that atmosphere again, because when we had this non-atmosphere, it really did deter what the events were like. Even something disappointing for us as Blue Jays fans, Peter, and when they had that 8-1 lead and the elation that you could hear in Rogers Center to, them falling down and then blowing that lead. And then just, the social media interaction is as controversial as social media seems to be now, and specifically one platform. You got to see the highs of it yesterday, of the jokes and the fun interacting when something is so good as the World Cup was yesterday.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we are definitely going into a different time in 2023 when it comes to what social media means, and like you said, how we're consuming this with all the different streams, and all the different, like, not only just the different streaming platforms, but different streams of one game, right? Like you have sorry, like you have the Amazon thing where like they have 45 different streams of a shitty Thursday night football game. Like you just have so many different ways of consuming all of this stuff. It really feels like we're going into uncharted territory. And so it's exciting. It's a little strange, but I'm hoping that it's all going to be for the best.
Yeah, absolutely. And I give a shout out to the unsung heroes too, that we talk about, like the officials and the vendors and all those people that get to work the event, that during COVID, maybe not the officials as much, but I think the officials get a little bit too much hard work knocked down on them whenever there's a bad game. The officials are the number one punching bag any single time. But the vendors and all those people that were out of jobs for a little bit, and some of the teams gave back and some of them didn't. I'm glad to see them getting back and getting to be in the position where they can work for a living.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Amen to that.
Dev, any last thing to say?
I think the greatest sports moment of the year, other than Lionel Messi doing his thing, was when Brett Goldstein was on Sesame Street.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
There was a word that started with the letter F that we all wanted him to say, and hopefully there's a leak, 5 years down the line of where it did happen. But it's nice seeing Roy Kent hang out with the Muppets.
Well, we head into 2023, and I would say, we don't know who any of the major anyone. There's no overwhelming favorite for any of the sports right now to win any of the championships, and we have a Women's World Cup coming up. So if you did enjoy the World Cup, there's a lot more great action. And if you're Canadian, remember, your team is one of the favorites to win it. Even if I don't believe St. Clair is going to be part of that World Cup team, though. She's
I'm not sure.
now, right? Yeah.
39.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you to Peter. Thank you to Devan. Until next time, everyone, cheers and enjoy the day, people.
Oh.